Number one, you have to spend money to make money. And a lot of people get into entrepreneurship because they have a side hustle that they want to monetize, and then it sometimes becomes a business. And I'll
Yeah.
talk about that just a little bit later. But you have to spend money to make money. And early in my entrepreneurship journey, I was very frugal and I kept a lot of money in the bank because I just wanted it to be in the bank for when we needed it. Well,
Security.
we need it. We need it to operate. We need it now. But I think for me, being in the B2B space, I was a business that sells to other businesses and we sell high ticket items,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars at a time.
Sure.
So the amount of money that was coming in from the business was way more money than I'd ever seen before. And I think I felt a certain level of imposterness not to spend it because I didn't know what to do with it.
Interesting.
Yep. I remember the very first gig that I got in person was at Syracuse University. And for that gig, I got paid more than I did for a month's salary in my job at the time. Yep. So I got paid $3,500 to do that gig. And I made less than $3,500 take home in my job. So it felt weird for somebody
Yeah,
to like,
that
hand over this check to me to be like, thanks for being here to do this session. And I was like,
for a few hours,
yeah.
right?
And
For
I
a
was
few
like,
hours of work.
uh, so that would be my first. My first lesson is you gotta spend money to make money. Even when it feels
Yeah.
strange.
So what would you have spent it on instead of letting it sit in the bank?
I would
Like
have spent it
ads
on
or, classes, like personal development, like
mm,
what are you
I
thinking?
would have spent it on a virtual assistant. I did not get a virtual
Oh,
assistant or someone to help out in our business until like 18 months in. And I was so in the weeds with everything. I couldn't focus on the things that the entrepreneur needs to be focused on. Which is my second lesson learned is there is really three types of people or three personas in business. There's the technician, who's the person that provides the service, the person that makes the good, whatever that is. There's the manager, the person who oversees the implementation of the making. And then there's the entrepreneur, the person who drives direction. I spent
yeah.
a lot of time, and most service providers do spend a lot of time in the technician space. And as a result, I couldn't focus on long-term strategic direction of the business in a way that was
Yeah.
meaningful. Um, so lesson two.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
Yep. It
Sometimes,
was,
sometimes a business coach can help out with that. That's actually
oh
like one of
yeah.
the things that I focus on. Yeah, like so many people try to do everything. And like, first of all, there's some things we shouldn't be doing, like
Absolutely.
taxes come to mind, like
Yes.
hire a CPA, like don't get yourself
Yes.
in trouble. But yeah, don't try to do it. Entrepreneurs should be doing the thing that nobody else can do yet.
Yep.
Like the thing that makes like the thing that is your secret sauce, but like, paying bills and making phone calls and yeah,
Yep.
no, you're
100%. And I learned that the hard way, most definitely, because
yeah.
that brings me to my third lesson learned, which is I got so bogged down in the technician space and the service provider space that I brought in a partner prematurely for the
Okay.
business, I would say. And there was a lot of lessons learned around bringing in a partner, particularly someone that's a friend. We rarely go into business with somebody that's not a friend.
Of
Even though
course.
it probably people always say don't go into business with your friends. There's reasons for that, right? And
Yes.
because I was so inexperienced, and I was young, I made a lot of decisions that were rooted in the friendship as opposed to the business relationship. And when that business closed and we dissolved, those decisions bit me in my behind over and over again.
It's really tough. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So I would say the third is don't uh, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna phrase this. My third lesson learned is you may not need a partner. You may just need employees.
Oh my
Um,
God.
you may just need employees.
Well said. Well,
And you have to be okay with as an entrepreneur, people working for you. I think, I'm of the mindset of like, let's work together. We can work together and I can still pay you and keep
yes.
100% equity in my company. So if I'm talking about things that you're like, oh, equity in a company, what does that mean? Take a little pause on the video. Go ahead and Google search that and then come back and watch the rest of it. Because I think my biggest lesson learned of those three things is, as an entrepreneur, you want to keep as much equity in your company as possible, because the goal is always to figure out what's your exit strategy. You never want to dissolve or just like leave it high and dry, but you want to sell it, whether it's for whole or for parts. You want to sell it because it can make you money and it can help you continue to propel your career forward or retire, like whatever you want to do. Um,
Right.
and I
So
made them.
did you give away a portion of your
I did.
equity then? Okay.
I
Do
did.
you mind me asking how much? You totally don't have to tell us if you
Half,
don't want to. Oh
half.
shit.
Yep, half.
Okay.
And there's a lot of intricacy around that. And again, the business coaching is huge. Like, and that goes to my first point, super intertwined about how like I'm frugal, I'm not trying to spend money. Well, had I spent some money and hired some people to help me make some decisions, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I'd be in a little bit different circumstance. I'd have a lot more money in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I think I'd feel better about the closure of the first business that I had. So I would say, yeah, lessons learned are you got to spend money to make money. You got to make sure that you know what your role is. And especially if you're a service provider, it's really easy to farm out tasks to make a product because you see the replication of how many products can be made when you bring more people in. As a
Yeah.
service provider, we typically get into business as service providers as a monetized passion, not as a business. We're trying to secure jobs for ourselves. Typically, as service providers, we're not thinking long term, build an empire that's scalable. I certainly wasn't either. So,
Yeah, that's so there's a couple things in there. I just talked to somebody from a different season a few nights ago who was saying you should never have a 50-50 partnership because it's too easy to get locked in a stalemate. Like
yes.
somebody has to be 51, right? Like at
Well, yeah, I
least.
mean, and it was 51-49, but
Okay.
that 1% doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's only two of you.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And there's a lot of things in a partnership, like it's a marriage. A partnership in a
It
business
is
is a marriage. And like me
for
and my
sure.
husband are in a place now where we can kind of joke about this, but like I spend a lot of time with my previous business partner and
Of
on
course.
some weeks more than with him. Um, and I'm not interested in marrying anybody else with my husband. I'd like to be married to my husband until death do us part. And
Amen, sister.
yep, not interested in that anymore. So there was definitely a lesson learned, but you do have a lot of service providers and people out here that are like, oh, we could start a business. We could do that together. And as service provider, your IP, your intellectual property is what you sell. And we have to be really careful that we have patents and things,
Yes.
the intellectual property version of patents for our thoughts and the way that we approach things as much as we would a really cool new physical invention.
Right.
And that's why a lot of us can't get off the ground. And that's why a lot of us can't maintain service-based businesses, is because we're trying to monetize our passion. So when we get a couple $1,000s, we want to keep it as opposed to spending money to make money.
Exactly. And what you were saying about, being the technician, it's interesting. And as someone who started a business that I didn't know anything about, it's right. I have two businesses. One business is 100% me. Nobody can do it but me. Like I'm a finance consultant, right?
Mhm.
I'm the one who's done this for 26 years and been through the degrees, and like I can't outsource that to anyone. Not scalable, right? That part's not scalable. But like the dog daycare, I can't groom a dog to save my life, so I have to hire someone to do it.
Yep.
So luckily, I can do the dog daycare stuff, right? Like I can do the back office stuff, but it kind of forces me to be really strategic about the business.
Mhm.
And I see that as my role. That was always going to be my role. And I actually went to the blocks with my general manager, but again, she was never my partner. She
Mm.
kind of functioned like a partner in a whole bunch of ways, but it was me fronting the money, and I hired her for her expertise in the dog business. So yeah, my husband is actually technically my business partner. He and I together own our corporation, but yeah, yeah, no, it's so when I do think about it that way, like the dog daycare, even though I make a lot less money on it right now, actually I don't make any money on it right now. We still aren't breaking even. We are super close. We've been open
Mhm.
for it'll be a year and like 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, most service-based businesses, when you think about it, like a dog daycare, a hair salon, I don't know, a restaurant, they don't tend to, like, owners can't pay themselves for
Yep.
a while, right? And that's just, that you are investing your money and you're investing your time because at some point the tables are going to turn
Yep.
and you're going to
Absolutely.
get all that money back and then some, and that's the whole point. And so for me, that business, I could open 5 locations, totally scalable. Nobody
Yep.
needs me for anything special. I just pay the bills and do you
Yep.
know what I mean? Do the hiring.
Exactly.
And so
Yep.
anybody can do that. But so I think that's like taught me a lesson. That's one of my lessons learned is that like my consultancy not scalable at all. And I want to scale. Also, since I work for one company 40 to 50 hours a week, it's almost like I'm working a full-time job, really,
Yep.
except I invoice them instead of being W-2, but the thing that makes it like scarily similar is that they could decide that my assignment is over tomorrow and
Mhm.
100% of my consulting income would just be gone
Yeah.
because it's not scalable beyond me.
Yeah.
So that's actually what I'm trying to do right now.